we have assembled to celebrate NDI's 30th anniversary, which is, by a happy and entirely appropriate coincidence, also Human Rights Day. I would like to say we're changing the program a little bit because Samantha Power, Ambassador Power, was kind of held up on the train. She will be arriving, and we will have our program slightly changed in terms of order. I am so delighted to see so many friends and to join with you in applauding President Ilves and Jack Dorsey and our entire list of honored guests. Tonight, we are placing the spotlight on an extraordinary group of innovators who personify the intersection between new technology and the democratic process. As we celebrate leaders who have dedicated their lives to furthering democracy, as Kathy said, it's only fitting that we take a moment to reflect on the life and legacy of President Nelson Mandela. I have to say I did have the honor of meeting President Mandela when I first became Ambassador to the United Nations, and this man walked up and he said, "Hello, I'm Nelson Mandela," like, well, you wouldn't know. And then I had the opportunity to meet him again in South Africa with the leopard on my shoulder. The passing of Nelson Mandela is deeply saddening, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family and with the people of South Africa whom he loved and served so well. We often say of famous figures that their words and works will survive them. In this case, it happens to be true. President Mandela was an activist, a prisoner of conscience, a political leader, and a venerated statesman, but he was above all a teacher. He taught us that the power of forgiveness is greater than the power of hate, and that differences of race and nationality matter less than our shared humanity. And these lessons are simple to articulate, but require immense wisdom and courage to implement. President Mandela's strength as a teacher is that he not only advised us what to do, he showed us how. And personally, I will treasure the memory of our meetings, the directness of his talk, the warmth of his smile, and the depth of his commitment to the economic and social well-being of his people. President Mandela leaves behind a globe in which the mere mention of his name inspires faith that injustice can be ended and conflicts resolved through respect for the dignity of every human being. And that's why the best way to honor President Mandela is not merely to mourn him, but to follow his example. And while we mourn his passing, we can take comfort in the fact that his lessons and legacy will live through the work of organizations such as the National Democratic Institute. Before I really begin my remarks, I want to acknowledge our board of directors and express my appreciation to them. Their experience and judgment are a constant source of happiness and resources and every way support for this organization. And I'm also very pleased to recognize my predecessors as chairman of NDI, the late Chuck Manette, Vice President Walter Mondale, and Senator Paul Kirk, who is here with us this evening. All of us at NDI strive to carry forward their vision and achievements. There's one person who is sadly missing tonight, and that's Gene Eidenberg, who passed away last week after a long illness. He served on NDI's board of directors for 23 years, and during his tenure, Gene brought to the Institute his great intellect, passion for politics, and a deep and abiding commitment to the democratic cause and to NDI. Gene had many friends in this room from his time at the White House and MCI and the Democratic Party, and we will miss him dearly. And our thoughts and prayers are with Gene's wife, Anna, and the entire family. 3 decades of life for NDI means almost 3 decades at NDI for Ken Wallach, our fearless and inflappable leader who has seen it all and still greets each new day with the question, what can NDI do to help democracy succeed? As the years go by, the answer to that question has constantly evolved. And Ken has been there in helping in every single way, and I treasure him as a partner in all the efforts to bring democracy. Ken, without you, none of this would be happening. When NDI began, the Berlin Wall still stood, and people still died trying to cross it. Single-party systems were common, and sham elections were the norm. In the West, there was only nascent recognition of democracy as a component of foreign policy. Since then, the fall of communism, the outbreak of ethnic violence, the rise of terrorist threats, and the turbulence of financial markets have all drastically altered the global landscape. Some suggest that democratic forces have lost ground, but the truth is that we concern ourselves more and more with helping democracy to succeed in places where, until recently, it didn't exist. That is progress, but also a challenge to do much more. And it's been my privilege to be part of the leadership of NDI for most of the past 3 decades. I took a little bit of time out to do something else. And I'm proud that since its founding, the Institute has met many challenges and remained a consistent leading international force for democracy. Going forward, we are determined to profit from what we've learned and to continue adapting to changed circumstances and events. Being in the democracy business, we're aware that technology is key to that change, affecting how officials and activists count votes, organize political movements, develop policy ideas, and debate the issues that shape our lives. Accordingly, in partnership with donors and tech companies, NDI has itself become an innovator. Literally millions of trained election monitors can now use new technologies that allow their SMS messages to be transmitted accurately and securely. NSA. Parliaments can open their data in a way that helps citizens access and analyze information about legislation and the work of their representatives. Social media can monitor political trends and track hate speeches to assess the potential for violence. And in closed societies, technology tools allow human rights and democracy activists to communicate online safely and securely. And that's part of our focus tonight. Social media has empowered citizens and democratic activists in the Arab world and elsewhere to connect, organize, and disseminate information. The connection between technology and democracy has become embedded in our language, evidenced by the fact that we now refer to democratic uprisings from Moldova to Iran to Tunisia to Egypt as Twitter revolutions. Yet we know that it is often easier to spark a revolution than to sustain it. And as I've often said, the road from Tahrir Square to governance is neither straight nor short. These days, citizens are demanding to have say in their self-government more than every 2 or 4 years at election time. They expect their local and national governments to listen and respond to them at the speed of the internet. Part of the problem is due simply to information overload, as governments and citizens alike are now faced with a daily avalanche of information. The challenge is the so-called signal-to-noise ratio. How do we sort the meaningful information from everything else? But it also runs deeper than that. As we all seek to filter massive amounts of information available to us, there's a risk that we filter out information that doesn't reconfirm our existing viewpoints, running the risk of further polarizing political discourse. And despite the impact of technology on political organizing, many democratic institutions, which by their nature are often slow to change, are still in the process of adapting to the digital age. It has been said, and I repeat this often, that citizens are speaking to their governments using 21st century technology, while governments listen with 20th century technology and respond with 19th century ideas. Which is why it's so important that we recognize individuals who are using technology to help governments and citizens engage in new ways to solve problems, and why the theme of technology and civic innovation is especially appropriate this evening. In the past, NDI normally recognized at gatherings such as this an individual democratic leader from abroad. These reflected the times when democratic leadership was fighting to emerge from under the weight of autocracy or from sectarian conflict. Now the times demand that we also acknowledge new forces for empowerment, individuals and organizations that are using technologies that simply did not exist a generation ago, a decade ago, or even last year. Every day, there are new examples of how technology can help improve citizens' ability to engage with their representatives, make government more transparent and accountable, and empower citizens and governments to collaborate to solve problems. The innovators we're honoring this evening are pioneers in these areas, connecting people in places ranging from Afghanistan to Tanzania to Mexico and the United States. They are innovators who have thought hard about how to use technology to help their citizens communicate better with their governments and with each other, and to enable individuals with good ideas to share those insights quickly and globally. NDI is really proud to be working with many of our honorees as they help democratic institutions take advantage of technology to enable new forms of interaction between governments and citizens. So tonight, you'll be able to hear a few of their stories. Their work reaffirms NDI's core mission of helping to spread democratic learning across borders, regions, and continents. Democracy faces a range of challenges today, from sectarian violence to terrorism to the turbulence of financial markets. Yet when I look at the depth and breadth of civic innovation around the world and the passion and dedication of our honorees this evening, I'm confident in the future of democracy and the work that NDI does, and our mission remains very much on the right side of history. This is because I believe that NDI and the innovators reflect the hopes and aspirations of people everywhere. Thank you so very much.